I wanna be with you.
He did not sit. He had decided that on the stairs, and he held to it now. Standing in the cell of gold light, the blinds laid across Vaughn's rug. The photograph was face up on the desk between them. Two men on a night sidewalk, a trembling hand lifted half an inch toward a sleeve. "You went looking," Marcus said, "for what I love, because you knew I'd survive being seen. He won't." Vaughn folded his fine hands, unhurried. "Say the word, Mr. Thorne. I want to hear which one you choose." And Marcus Thorne, 18 years old, said the most expensive word he owned. "No." The office did not thunder. Vaughn only smiled, the way a man smiles when a door he built clicks shut. "Then we'll see," he said softly, "what a photograph is worth." The locker room took him back the way it always did, the one honest church left to him. He'd come straight from the office, tie still knotted like a noose and stripped out of the good clothes into nothing but a towel and the steam, because he needed a room where the collisions were legal and the weight was his to carry. Devon found him there, 3 lockers down, shirtless and half-dressed from the afternoon lift, the linebacker's chest and the bison ink on his shoulder catching the fluorescent light. He read Marcus in one glance, the shaking hands, the noose of a tie coiled on the bench, the way he read a broken root. "You said no," Devon said. "Not a question." "Yeah," Devon exhaled slow, like a man bracing a wall. "Then we got work to do, 'cause a man like that don't let no just sit there." That night, Marcus took the bus to U Street and told Julian the truth he'd been swallowing for a week. The photograph, the leash, the trembling hand a stranger now owned. Julian went very still, the trained stillness of a boy raised under a general. "Then let me end it first," he said. "I'll resign the Corps before he can send it. My father can't burn what I hand him myself." His hands, for once, did not shake. They were steady with the terrible calm of a man volunteering to fall. "No," Marcus said. And it was a different no than the one he'd given Vaughn, softer and more frightening for it. He reached up and took Julian's steady jaw in his hand and closed the 8 inches he had measured all autumn and kissed him. Slow, certain. The first honest thing either of them had built. "We don't fall on his sword," Marcus breathed against his mouth. "We take the sword." Room 4B. The next morning, 2 coffees, no questions, Devon's whole vocabulary of love. "You've been trying to out-silence a man who taught silence for a living," Devon said. "That's a losing route, Thorne. You don't fight paper with your fists, and you don't fight it alone in the dark either. That's the part nobody ever taught you. So what do? We go where they keep the paper." Devon was already lacing the sneakers he never wore off the field. "Basement of the Union. Free legal clinic, Majay de Bois Be my puzzle 2 Used it for a slumlord. Law students, real ones, sharp as knives and cheap as free." He pressed the coffee into Marcus's hands. "You walk in there with me tomorrow. We make his secret their problem." The clinic was a windowless room under the student union that smelled of old carpet and toner. 3 folding tables, a wall of dented filing cabinets, a hand-lettered sign that read "Intake 2 to 5." And behind the far table, not looking up from a legal pad, sat a young woman who would one day be the most dangerous attorney in any room she chose to enter. Sloane Kensington was 24, a second year with flawless dark skin and razor-sharp cheekbones, her hair already pulled into the beginnings of that unforgiving low knot, a charcoal blazer sharp as a verdict. She let them stand a full 10 seconds before she spoke. If it's a roommate dispute, she said, still writing, the resident advisor is upstairs. Devon grinned. Marcus did not. It's a professor, Marcus said, with a photograph. Her pen stopped. She looked up then, and her eyes did the thing Marcus's did, took the measure of a room, priced every load. Names, she said. He gave one, Vaughn. Something moved behind her face, quick and cold, and was gone. Sit, she said, and this time it was an order he obeyed, because she had earned it in a syllable. She listened without softness while he laid it out in clean architectural lines. The leash, the fellowship, the boy who'd break. When he finished, she set her pen down parallel to the pad's edge, and Marcus noticed the precision of it and understood he had found something rare, a mind built like his own. Here's your problem, Sloane said. You've been trying to make him stop. You don't beg a predator, Mr. Thorne, you document him. And documentation, she almost smiled, is just architecture that holds up in a room full of enemies. They came together after hours in the clinic's back room. Marcus, Devon, Julian in a low cap and civilian clothes, and Sloane at the head of the table like a general planning a siege. It should have felt like fear. Instead, for a moment, it felt like the thing Marcus had never had a word for. Devon brought food, because Devon always brought food. Julian sat close enough that their knees touched under the table, a small, brave geography. Sloane sketched the shape of men like Vaughn, how they insulate, how they erode, how they never keep the weapon in their own hand. And Marcus, watching the three faces bent toward the same problem, felt the strangest sensation move through his chest. He was not carrying it alone. He did not yet trust how much he wanted that. Sloane put them to work like a foreman. A man doesn't start at blackmail, she said. He practices. There's a first one and a second one. And a paper trail of students who transferred, withdrew, went quiet. She taught Marcus to read a personnel file the way he read a load path, following the stress to where it disappeared. By the third night, they had a name that recurred and then stopped recurring. A fourth year, 3 years back, who'd been Vaughn's favorite, and then, abruptly, was gone from every roster. No scandal, no record, just an absence shaped exactly like a man. That, Sloane said quietly, tapping the empty space in the registry, is what he does to load-bearing walls. He removes them so cleanly, you don't notice the building's already condemned. Julian did the most dangerous thing any of them did, and he did it without being asked. He had access, cadet channels, an administrative aide who owed him, the disciplined patience of a man trained to gather intelligence. He pulled the withdrawn student's last known contact and slid it across the table, and his hand, Marcus saw, had begun to tremble again. If anyone traces this to me, Julian said, it's not a photograph anymore, it's a discharge. He closed his fingers to still them. I know what my father is. I'd rather burn standing next to you than stay safe standing next to him. Marcus took the trembling hand under the table and held it until it stopped. It was becoming the truest sentence they had. Monday, the studio. Vaughn was already there, sleeves never rolled, a single fountain pen laid parallel to the table. He did not look up. Curious thing, he said mildly. I had a call this weekend, someone in the registrar's office, asking whether old student files are, how did she put it, discoverable. He set the pen down with surgical care. You've made a friend, Mr. Thorne. A clever one. Clever people are expensive to keep and expensive to lose. Marcus kept his line clean, his face a sealed wall. But inside, something cold turned over. Vaughn had felt the investigation the way a spider feels a thread. And a man who eroded for a living had just learned that, for the first time, someone was building faster than he could tear down. Between the fear, there was this. A night at the Velvet Underground, Cleon bending a note off the brass, Miss Odessa singing something slow about staying. Marcus and Julian sat shoulder to shoulder, the 8 inches long gone, and under the lip of the bar, Marcus laid his fingers across a hand that no longer needed stilling. "When this is over," Julian said, "I want to take you somewhere with no photographs in it." "There's no such place." "Then we'll build one." Julian said it plainly, a soldier's promise, and Marcus, who built for a living and believed in nothing he couldn't calculate, believed him. It was the thing Vaughn could never touch. Not the fellowship, not the future. This, the one structure with no leash on it. Devon watched them from across the room and did not let the ache reach his face. Later, driving Marcus home through the sodium light, he said it once, so it would be said. "I see it. What you got with him." A street light ran across the windshield. "I'm not going to pretend it don't cost me something. But you're my teammate before you're anything else, and a man protects his teammate." He glanced over, the old Atlanta warmth surfacing through the hurt. "I held you first. Turns out that don't mean I get to keep you. Just means I don't get to quit you." Marcus looked at his friend and understood he was in the presence of a rarer thing than love, a love that had been refused and stayed anyway. Sloane worked later than any of them, and one night Marcus asked her why. Why a second year with her ceiling would spend her nights in a basement chasing a tenured ghost. She didn't stop writing. "Because I watched a man like him win once," she said. "Watched the whole building bend to protect him because he was worth more standing than the girl he broke. And I decided I'd rather be the most dangerous thing in the room than ever be the softest one again." She finally looked up, and for a second the future shark showed through. "You and me, Thorne, we're the same animal. We just haven't decided yet what we're for." Marcus would remember that sentence for 17 years. The withdrawn student called back. He wouldn't testify. He had a family now, a life he'd rebuilt from the studs. But he confirmed it, voice shaking down a payphone line, and gave them one thing that mattered. He had kept a letter. Vaughn's handwriting, the same fountain ink, the same soft, surgical threat. Sloane held the facts of it up to the bad clinic light like an X-ray of a fracture. "This," she said, "is a pattern. One photograph is a he said. 2 men, 2 decades, the same pen. That's a habit. And habits," she almost smiled, "are load-bearing. Pull one out and the whole man comes down." For the first time, Marcus let himself feel it. Hope. He would learn how dangerous that was. Then the ground shifted. The clinic supervising attorney called Sloane in. A call had come from above. A gentle institutional reminder that certain faculty were not to be harassed by students, that a second year's file access was a privilege easily revoked. Vaughn had not fought them. He had eroded the ground under them exactly as she'd said he would. Sloane came out tight-jawed. He can't touch the evidence, she said. So he's touching me, my standing, my clinic hours, my recommendation letters. She said it flat, but Marcus saw the cost. Doesn't matter. I've been building my whole life to not be scared of men like this. A beat. But you should know. He stopped playing careful. Careful men don't call the dean. Cornered ones do. And then the worst news, the one Marcus had been dreading in his marrow. General Vance Sterling was coming to campus. A review of the ROTC detachment, the aide said. Routine. Nothing about that man was routine. Julian went gray when he heard. Marcus found him behind the ROTC building in the specific stillness of a boy holding himself motionless so his father would find nothing to correct. If Vaughn wants leverage, Julian said, he doesn't even have to send the photo now. He just has to make sure my father's in the right room when he does. He looked at Marcus with something that wasn't fear. Worse, it was acceptance. You should stay away from me this week. For your sake. No, Marcus said, the softest no again. We take the sword. Together. Late, the clinic dark but for one lamp, Marcus and Sloane, the last two standing. She laid out the play like blueprints. They couldn't win in a courtroom, not yet, not with a witness who wouldn't talk, but they could make the cost of using the photograph higher than the pleasure of it. Expose the pattern quietly to the one dean who owed Sloane a favor. Box Vaughn in. It's not justice, she said. It's leverage. Learn the difference and you'll never lose a room again. Marcus looked at her. The cold precision, the refusal to be the softest thing, and felt the first beam of a bridge he'd cross for the rest of his life. When you pass the bar, he said, I'm going to need a lawyer. She didn't smile, but she wrote her number on the corner of a legal pad and tore it clean. You already do. Vaughn watched from the third-floor studio window as the four of them crossed the yard below. The receiver, the linebacker, the cadet, the lawyer-to-be, heads bent together, and then Marcus laughed at something, threw his head back and laughed, the sound too far to hear but the shape of it unmistakable, and something in Alistair Vaughn, who had never once been told no in a room he chose to enter, came quietly and completely undone. The photograph had been a leash, but a leash only works on a dog that's alone. He had watched the boy find a pack, find love he couldn't buy, and defense he couldn't erode, and he understood, with the cold clarity of a man reading his own condemned blueprint, that he had already lost the thing itself. All that was left was to make sure Marcus lost something too. He caught Marcus alone one last time on the studio stairs. No fountain pen now, no terms. You think the girl protects you, Vaughn said, and the mildness was gone. And what was underneath was worse, flat and final. You think your linebacker and your little soldier make you safe? They make you visible, Mr. Thorne, and visible things get moved. He straightened his charcoal lapel, an old reflex. I gave you a future. You chose a crowd. I want you to remember when it's over that you did this. He walked down and out into the gray, and Marcus stood on the stairs with the hair up on his arms, understanding for the first time that the danger had stopped being a photograph. That week, they had one perfect night because the story is cruel and gives you the warmth first. The four of them in room 4B, Devon's hot plate, catfish and cornmeal, Miss Odessa on a borrowed radio, Julian's knee against Marcus's, Sloane pretending she was only there for the food and staying till 2. Nobody said the word family. It sat in the room anyway, unnamed, the way the best foundations sit, underground, load-bearing, holding up more than anyone standing on them can see. Marcus lay awake after and let himself, just once, imagine an after. A place with no photographs in it. He had spent his whole life not wanting things because wanting was a load he couldn't guarantee. That night, foolishly, gratefully, he wanted. The plan was set for Friday. Sloane would hand the dossier to her dean quietly, and the box would close around Vaughn. One more handoff, the witness's letter, the pattern, the facts, from the clinic to Sloane's car after the union closed. Devon insisted on driving Marcus. Of course he did. "I put my body between you and the hit," he said, easy, lacing up in the dark dorm. "Every snap, all season. It's the one thing I know how to do without thinking." He said it like a joke. It was a joke. It was also the truest thing he would ever say, and neither of them knew yet how soon he'd prove it. Friday came in wet. The union emptied. Sloane took the folder, the letter, the facts, the pattern that would cost Vaughn everything, and told them she'd have it in front of the dean by morning. Julian walked her to the lot, scanning the dark out of a habit his father had beaten into him. Something in the parked cars felt wrong to him. He couldn't say why. A soldier rarely can until it's too late. Marcus and Devon crossed toward the Buick under a broken streetlight, the rain coming down in the sodium glow. The whole terrible week finally tipping toward over. "Catfish when this is done," Devon said, keys spinning on his finger. "You're buying, rich boy." Marcus almost smiled. He was 3 steps into the street. The car was parked wrong. That was the first thing Marcus's architect brain flagged a half-second too late. Nose out, dark, no lights, idling low against the curb where no car should idle. Then the headlights snapped on, twin beams, white and blinding, and behind the wheel for one frozen instant, Marcus saw a charcoal sleeve, a face he knew, calm as weather. Vaughn. The engine climbed from idle to a roar, tires biting the wet asphalt, and the whole street narrowed to 2 lights rushing at a boy who could not make his legs move. Marcus. He heard his name in Devon's voice, the field voice, the one that called the coverage. He felt, more than saw, the mass of his friend come off the curb. The linebacker's whole body, the instinct of 11 weeks and 1 long season, moving into the gap the way it always had, without being asked before anyone knew to want it. 2 hands hit him square in the chest, hard. The world tilted. Marcus went sideways off his feet, the wet street rising to meet his shoulder, the headlight swinging away from him and toward the sound. The one the body files away forever in a room it never opens again. And the last thing Marcus Thorne saw before the dark took the frame was Devon in the light, and the light not stopping.